Greetings to all of my magic book-loving friends out there in YouTube. If we haven't already met, my name is Jeff Kowalk. You're watching my channel, Erudite Magic. This channel is all about magic books, and today I want to talk to you about the 5 greatest living creators of magic, especially those who have bothered to put magic into print. I'm going to give you a list of 5 creators who are alive today who I think have put together some beautiful magic into the printed word for us. I'm excited. Let's get into it. Hey, I recognize I want to have a discussion. All lists are subjective, so I want to hear from you during this episode. Who are your top 5 magic creators who have put magic into the printed word? Put your list down below. And even if you don't have your own opinion and you just disagree with mine, that's fine too. Put something down below and tell me, why do you disagree with me? At number 5. Wait. I'm sorry. I just can't give you number 5 without giving you an honorable mention first. Can you bear with me? Falling just outside my number 5, I have an honorable mention, and that is John Bannon. I know, you're thinking, what kind of a list starts with an honorable mention of John Bannon? A great list, no doubt. So at number 6, we have John Bannon. John Bannon has an impressive output by almost any standards. I think it's even doubly more impressive when you understand the fact that he's a part-time professional. That's right, John Bannon is a full-time attorney who creates card tricks and other magic in his spare time. I think that if you don't know some John Bannon effects, you've probably been living under a rock for the last decade or so, because he's been highly prolific, putting out a number of tremendous books with original and very clever card tricks. He's perhaps best known for Play It Straight Triumph, which I won't ruin for you, but you should look up, as well as his packet tricks, especially Twisted Sisters, Ace Assemblies, and other card work, including his AK-47, which is a mind-reading effect with cards. So why do I think that John Bannon deserves honorable mention? I won't spend too much time here except to say that I think that his magic tricks are some of the most performed by semi-professional and amateur magicians everywhere. They're sophisticated, easy to do, and definitely sets you apart from the competition. So what kept him from making the list, you might ask? You don't hear anything wrong with that. Well, he is mostly close-up card magic and not quite as prolific as some of the people coming later in the list. But if you like his stuff, you can still get Dear Mr. Fantasy as a paperback, although you're going to have a harder time finding some of his other books like Impossibilia, Smoke and Mirrors, Mentalissimo, and even the Destination Zero, which I reviewed here on this channel, has become extremely hard to find. So that's another reason, is there's not quite as much in print anymore, but I still thought he deserved an honorable mention before we get on with the rest of our actual top 5. Okay, no fakes this time. I'm here to give you number 5 on the list. Coming in at the esteemed number 5 is the ever-prolific Steve Beam. You've heard me talk about Steve Beam when I did a review of his semi-automatic card trick series, which now is an expansive 12 volumes plus an index. But not only that, Steve has also published a magazine called The Trapdoor, which ran for a very long time, creating a bunch of highly original and definitely entertaining pieces of magic that he shared with the magic community through The Trapdoor and other works that he's published. So why does Steve Beam get the number 5 spot? In my opinion, his work has been incredibly prolific, and like John Bannon, he too is a part-time professional. Now that he's retired, I guess he's maybe a full-time professional? But he did the bulk of his writing when he was holding down a full-time job, raising a family, doing many other things, and he still found time to create, test, author, and publish all of this amazing magic. So why is he on the list? He's not just prolific. He has found ways to take sleights or moves and take them to their maximum capability. In addition, he typically provides you a very entertaining and funny presentation, a plot that kind of makes sense. I think that Steve Beam has helped take people from absolute beginner to someone who can now work their way around a deck of cards with his semi-automatic card trick series. And in my opinion, I think that he's done enough to merit number 5 on top living creators. By the way, I believe he's written the definitive work on the multiple selection plot in his little pamphlet called Multiple Impact, which you can also find in the trapdoor. Why didn't Steve Beam go higher? Well, briefly, because most of what he's published has been cards and close-up, but I felt like the contributions that he's made to Magic have put him slightly ahead of John Bannon on my list. Remember, if you disagree, now's the time to sound off below. At number 4, I don't think there's anyone in the world of Magic who has been more tenacious about publishing than our candidate. He is perhaps synonymous with close-up card magic, and that's because I'm talking about Harry Lorraine, who in 1962 published the book Close-Up Card Magic. Now, of course, I wasn't alive in 1962, but I do know from studying it that it was a landmark book because it had nothing but absolutely powerful card magic. There was not a dog among the tricks. I've read the book. Ever since 1962, Harry Lorraine has had a streak of books published. It's almost like you can't get the guy to stop publishing magic. He's in his 90s and he has continued to publish books. Many of them have been revisiting earlier works that he wrote in the 60s and 70s, although some of them have tweaked what he published in the Apocalypse, which ran from the 80s into the 2000s. When you look back at some of the plots that Harry Lorraine has presented to the Magic community, you see in that original Close-Up Card Magic the ambitious card routine. You've got Vernon's Aces, the Marlowe Gardner Poker Deal, the Lazy Man's Card Trick, and so many more. And that's just in the first book that he ever published. He went on later to give us other classics like Impromptu Out of This World, Out of This Universe, The Halo Cut, etc. Personally, the Classic Collection, Volume 1, was one of the first books that I bought when I got back into Magic after taking a brief hiatus for college. I was so excited to read my first Harry Lorraine book, and it's still well-loved and well-used in my own personal repertoire. If you want to learn how to do excellent, entertaining card magic from a shuffled deck in use, Harry Lorraine is your guy. Even if he didn't originate everything he published, everything he's published is well worth your consideration. Basically, I think that Harry Lorraine is close-up card magic. Harry Lorraine made this list because of all of the different plots that he has presented and given to magicians over the years. Frankly, I think he could have been higher on my list, but there are some doubts out there if you do some reading about his ownership of everything he's published. Regardless, I'm not here to debate that. I think that number 4 is a great spot to be for all of the wonderful contributions he has made to the art of magic and specifically close-up card magic. By the way, if you want to get his books, he has republished a number of them in his classic collections works, All My Apocalypse, Jaw Droppers. Basically, you go to his website, you can find his books. Some of them are out of print in the hardbound, but you can still get PDFs of most of them, and it's a real joy to be able to have the collection in one spot so that you can learn from a true master. My number 3 takes us beyond card magic and moves us into magic with all kinds of objects. I'm talking about coins, cards, rubber bands, pencils and pens, post-it notes, paper clips, you name it, and even balloons. You may have already guessed it, but I am talking about Jay Sankey. Jay Sankey is a Canadian magician who really came into his own in the 90s. He's been creating magic from the 80s onward, but I believe that he really hit his stride with the DVD scene that took the world by storm during the 90s and early 2000s. As almost everyone else on my list, he's been a highly prolific creator of magic, but Jay Sankey has some other characteristics that make his magic exceptional. Jay Sankey has been a motivational speaker, a stand-up comic, as well as a professional magician, and the type of magic that he does is zany, kind of off the wall, different thought process that goes into it than what you're typically going to find in card tricks. But he's come up with so much stuff, and I'm not really as focused on the DVDs as I am on the books. There are 4 primary ways that you can find Jay Sankey's work. You can pick up the original Kaufman & Company Sankey Panky back from the mid to late 80s. There's 100% Sankey, Sankey Unleashed, and then of course, more recently, Vanishing Ink put together the compilation, The Definitive Sankey, which ranks all of his tricks from some of your favorite magicians, looking at Jay Sankey items, telling you what they liked, and you are of course welcome to develop your own list of his material, but it encompasses almost everything that he had published before in the other books. They received permission to republish those, and that is how I became well acquainted with Jay Sankey's work in the printed word. His most well-known effect is probably Airtight, which was performed by David Copperfield on one of his TV Magic specials. Someone selects a card, returns it to a deck that's shuffled. The deck is shoved into a balloon. The balloon is shaken to further shuffle the cards, and the performer pulls one card out of the balloon, which happens to be the participant's selection. It's a really cool effect, and as you can imagine, using a balloon with a deck of cards, it's way different than anything your audiences have seen with just a deck of cards. Of course, he has a lot of other stuff there. You have Doe, which is his pencil through bill, using nothing more than a post-it note, a bill, and a pencil. You have Paper Clipped, which is his utility switch for a playing card or a billet or anything else that you choose to use once you know the principle. And of course, his take on Triumph Back in Time, which is simple to do, but packs a really powerful punch. You've probably performed it, or at least seen someone else perform it. Jay Sankey has so many classics, I really can't go through all of them, and that's not my goal here, except to say that I think he has really advanced the art of magic with his style of magic that's both easy to do, fun to perform, and uses so many different objects that just turn you into a real wizard. Highly recommended. And if you agree with me, let me hear from you down below about what your favorite Jay Sankey effects are. I've already talked about a number of books that are pretty much out of print, so I wanted to let you know that if you're looking for out of print books or new books, Don's Magic and Books is a great place to shop. Don is a friend of mine and he is sponsoring this video. And I love Don's shop because when you think about magic books, there's so many of them out there that are popular for a period of time and then go away. And Don is able to find those books and repurpose them to give them new homes where they can be loved, read, and performed. So if you love magic books and you want to save 10% on buying them, then head over to Don's website, donsmagicandbooks.com, and use the code TOP5 this week to save 10% on any orders $20 or more. I guarantee you'll be delighted with both the selections and the prices that Don has, so be sure to support him in his mission of getting magic books out there into the world. Number 2 on my list was very popular in the late 70s and into the 80s and has since kind of faded into the background, at least as far as the more popular magic events go. I am talking about Paul Harris. You've heard me talk about Paul Harris on the channel before because I love the guy's magic. And truly, if you're a working professional, I don't know how you couldn't love his magic. He is a working pro, or at least was, and so everything he did for magic was born in the trenches and plays extremely well for real live audiences. There's no doubt in my mind, if you watch a working pro today who does any kind of close-up magic, chances are really high that he performs some version of a Paul Harris trick. There's so many classics that you can think of. I know that his Immaculate Connection, which is his linking card routine, was performed by David Copperfield, again, on one of his TV specials, and is a beautiful effect. But David Copperfield isn't the only famous magician to use a Paul Harris effect on national TV. No, Doug Henning performed his Twilight Coins routine, which is a multiplying coin routine with a piece of glass and some coins. It's a beautiful, elegant piece of magic. That's to say nothing of the Screwed deck or any of the other items that he has marketed, which were later published in his books, The Bizarre Twist, and his hilarious presentation for essentially a double lift, which was called Whack Your Pack. I didn't come up with the name, he did. I mentioned early on in the video that I was looking for people who had put magic into print. Paul Harris published a number of booklets that were published during the late 70s and early 80s. All the way up into the early 90s, he was continuing to put out his original creations until in the mid-90s, they put everything together and formed the Art of Astonishment trilogy. If you don't own these, they're still in print, and you owe it to yourself to pick them up before they go out of print, because Paul Harris is a true genius and a working pro's pro. There's a lifetime of magic to be found in the Paul Harris books, The Art of Astonishment, and some of his pamphlets. So that just leaves number 1. Who could possibly be my number 1? Number 1 has the most diversity of both props and performance conditions of any of the magicians on my list so far. The person has mastered the art of close-up card magic. They've done parlor with mentalism and magic. They've used mice and cups and other things. They've also advised for TV a great deal, including being one of the producers of the Carbonaro effect. I am talking about David Regal. David Regal has been an incredibly prolific author and creator of magic tricks, and if you've ever read any of his works, you know that I'm not exaggerating when I say that everything he does is hilarious and has a beautiful presentation. A lot of that comes from his TV writing background. He wrote for Rugrats, he wrote for Everybody Loves Raymond, so he understands the value of a great script and an engaging plot. So typically, when you read his books, he is delivering to you on a silver platter both beautiful, elegant solutions to magic and also a delicious plot that will keep your audience engaged. He's funny, different, and commercial. We talked earlier about Harry Lorraine, and David Regal is essentially his protege. Harry Lorraine published David Regal's first book of magic called Star Quality, The Magic of David Regal, and it still contains a number of gems that I perform to this day. David took over from there, publishing his own Close-Up and Personal, later followed by The Constant Fooling 1 and 2, which I think were underrated books, and then more recently, Approaching and Interpreting Magic, 2 of the best values in magic today. They contain all kinds of magic with these engaging plots that I've been talking about, and so many different props. He does everything from chop cup routines using mugs and marshmallows to a routine with bills and money. He's got cups and balls routines with the final loads being the little plastic sets of cups and balls we all started with as children. He has another chop cup routine with a piece of cheese and some final load of a bunch of stuffed mice. He has routines where animals are being shot through the air to catch cards. And you're likely to find sage advice in whatever he is writing. Look, if you've ever read or watched David Regal, you know that he's one of the top minds in magic today, and there's no doubt that he's my favorite creator. For a long time, I performed almost anything David Regal and knew most of what he had published. I still have a great deal of respect for him, and I think that you should too if you check out his work. What are your favorite David Regal tricks? Let me hear from you down below. That's it. Those are my top 5. I really hope you enjoyed this. I had a blast making this video because it's so fun to walk down memory lane and see what I've learned from all of these tremendous magic creators. And while you may disagree with me on my list, I hope you can at least respect the fact that these are some tremendous creators and worthy of your attention. I thank you for giving me your attention. If you enjoyed watching this video and found value, please click that like button so that I know that you are getting the value you need out of these videos. If you're not, drop me a comment and let me hear from you about how I can do better for you. Don't forget, I want to hear your list. As always, all my erudite friends, thanks for watching, and until next time, keep reading.